Hi everybody, welcome to another episode with myself and Stephen. This one is my turn. It doesn't happen too often, but it does from time to time. And I'm lucky enough to have just got back from a couple of weeks away. And during those 2 weeks, I decided to turn off all social media, which has inspired me to revisit something I did a few years ago, which is a social media detox. Right now, I'm being quite extreme with saying I'm coming off social media completely. Whether that will be the case over the test of time, especially if people are watching this 3 months later and say, hang on, Oliver, you're posting on Instagram. Disclaimer, it's my intention for it to be permanent, but it might end up being a detox. And I really wanted to just talk through that experience. So before I go on and rabbit, I'll let Stephen say hello and see what he thinks about the crazy thing I just told him off air.
Wow, Oliver, that's the second time you said that now, and I'm still trying to like get my head around it. I totally get the social media detox, and many of my clients have done a similar thing and have said it's been really good for them. And me and you have spoken many times about how we end up comparing ourselves to other people because of social media. So I think a social media detox sounds like a fabulous idea. But to go one step further and to say you're going to retreat from social media altogether, that's a whole different ball game. That's huge, and on a couple of levels. One, from a professional level, in terms of the job that you do, I believe that social media helps you reach a wider audience. So that's one. And then the second one is we know that some close friends and family, if there wasn't social media, you wouldn't have the contact with them that you have. So I think the other first two things that come to mind. However, part of me is also trying to say, is social media our ego? And do we need to live with an ego? Could we live without it? And the answer is absolutely yes. And do we really generate business out of social media? Or have we mentally told ourselves that's what we think we believe? I know for a fact that I get no new clients from social media. My clients come from referrals, and that's a fact.
Yeah.
I know that from an absolute fact. However, social media, I guess, gives me the opportunity to give people an insight into who I am. You could then argue, however, well, if you want to give people an insight into who you are, meet them for coffee.
Yeah.
Or ring them up and have a conversation. So this is a great subject, and I think a lot of people listening to this, like me, will be fighting with the for and against. And if I'm really honest, for the first time, Oliver, with you, I think I'm sat on the fence. I'm not sure which way I would go. Part of me saying, do you know what? Not being on social media at all could be really positive. And part of me is like saying, well, actually, could I do it? Am I going to make a statement where, a little bit like when the footballer goes, I'm going to retire, and then 6 months down the line, they come out of retirement and play again. So that's my take on it, Oliver. But please go into detail and tell us about. It'd be really interesting to find out, why you've made the decision, what happened to you while you're on holiday, what were the emotions going through. I'd be really keen to hear those.
Yeah. So basically, before I went away, so my holiday was very lucky. It was in the US. One of the things that I have started to do is get some US clients. Not many, but I've quite enjoyed working with them. But for whatever reason, in my social media, I was unable to market my social media in that country on certain platforms, which I found confusing. So I had it all in my head that I was going to go out there. I was in Florida, and I was going to really hit my social media hard and see if I could get some traction, be allowed to advertise in their area, and so forth. And I had to sit down with myself, really, and say, hang on, I'm going on holiday with my family. It's going to be busy. The kind of holiday we were on was very hectic. It wasn't a relaxing holiday. It was great fun, but it wasn't very relaxing. And then I suddenly thought to myself, I don't want to be doing that. And I had some chats with my guy, Chris Reeve, helps me with all my social media. Reeve Social Media, if you haven't checked him out, do. He is awesome for that sort of thing. And I've had a chat with him. He knows about this. This isn't going to be a surprise to him. And we decided with a few tactics that I could employ, maybe just post one thing at the start and so forth. But I just thought, no, I'm just not going to do it. And I thought that I would first of all get some anxiety from not being present. I didn't. And I thought I then might miss it. I didn't. what I started to notice is when I was having moments of downtime, I wasn't doing the usual thing where I'd be like, oh, right, I'm bored, I'm going to flick through what's happening on social media. Has anything happened? Do I need to comment on anything or anything like these? I was having conversations with my family. And instead of having a room of everybody heads down doing this, I was leading conversations. People were more likely to put their phone down and engage in the conversation. We did jigsaw puzzles, which is just not something our family does, together. I'm not suggesting you want to do jigsaw puzzles, but we did. We did 3 in 2 weeks. And I just suddenly started thinking, oh my word, this social media thing has become too much for me. I'm not saying it is for everybody else, but for me it's been too much because I'm on it every single day. And I know one of the platforms that's pushed me over the edge, well, there's 2 really. One is TikTok, because personally, and it doesn't matter what other people think, I think it's the most impressive platform out there in terms of gathering and maintaining your attention. Because even though I believe I'm a fairly well-disciplined individual, I can get lost in a TikTok feed. Because it is just so switched on. It will definitely always start with a video that I am interested in. And I can find myself 5-10 minutes or more later going, oh, what's happened? I came on here to post a video. I haven't even got onto my profile. So I now was getting to the point where I literally have to hold my phone, and for those who just listen to it, I'm covering my screen, the top half with my hand, and click on my profile so I didn't get trapped. Then Threads came out. Now, people will have good and bad views on it, but I just thought, you know what, when I first started out in this game, there was Facebook and then Twitter popped along. Now there's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Some people would say Snapchat, although I'm too old, I believe, for that. And now Threads. And you're just like, oh, here we go. Here we go. It's just going to be another one after another one after another one after another one. I was like, no, this needs to end. Because of the exact point that you just raised, and the one that I saw, is that we are not having real interactions. We're just not having natural interactions. And I've always felt that social media clearly has some positivity. There are some really good things about social media, but are they outweighed by the vast number of negative ones? I would say yes. That's my opinion. People are more than welcome to argue with me on that. So therefore, I've always found it difficult promoting my sort of work, or our sort of work, on a platform that I know is probably defeating the object, which is personal development and growth. Because yes, there is personal development growth opportunity on social media, but there's also a lot of negativity, a lot of distraction, and a lot of misinformation out there. Please don't sue me, Zuckerberg and co. But I do think some people are allowed to post stuff that is BS. And that's not healthy. And also it undermines people's mental health and well-being. So I've always been uncomfortable with it, but I felt, well, no, I need to put my version of stuff out there to encourage people to come and choose a different path. Whereas now I'm thinking, do I really need to do that? And a bit like you said, am I really gaining anything from that, or am I just kidding myself? Am I just falling into the trap? Because like you, where does all my work, all my influence, all my connection come from? It comes from face-to-face interactions or recommendations from referrals from my clients. Some people will validate me via social media, but they could do that on a website and things as well. So I suddenly thought, you know what? No, I think now is the time for me to end this game. I will disclaim, LinkedIn I don't consider in the same bag, because for me it's professional online networking, so I will remain on there, but I'm not going to post prolifically on there. I might share stuff on there that I think is valuable to my network, but that is kind of how I keep in touch with my online network. So your point as a final as well about families, I have to challenge back and say, if our best way of maintaining contact with our friends and family is on social media, we probably need to look at the strength of relationship we have with those people, and can we do better? We certainly should do better, because that isn't okay. It's acceptable, it's understandable, but it's not okay, because if those are relationships we value, is it that hard to do a FaceTime call or send a nice message or a voice memo? There's other ways to still use modern media to communicate with these people and keep in touch. You know, you can send all the stuff that you post on social media to those people individually. For me, it feels like it's a bit sad that that's how some members of our family and friend circle keep in touch with what we're doing, by what we post on Facebook. So, there's a lot of soul searching. I've had quite a lot of time, even though it was a busy, hectic holiday. I've had a lot of downtime on it, and I just couldn't get away with how positive and energized I felt having had 2 weeks away from it. So that's where I'm coming from. But what's coming to your mind when you hear me rabbit on like that for about probably what was 5 minutes?
What's interesting, Oliver, I'm feeling like I'm going to go into mentor mode with you.
Okay, cool.
I'm sensing that this isn't just about social media. This is more around, for me, how you live your life. And what you're actually experiencing is actually that social media has occupied so much of your time that you're potentially not being able to do the things that you want to do. And it's changing maybe the way in which you feel. So I really get a sense of that from what you're saying. And I guess whatever you need to do to give yourself more time and have real connectivity with people, and that might be coming off social media, that might be spending some more time on a golf course, that might be spending some more time with you, that might be meditation, that might be thinking about the people that you come into contact with. I think you raise a very valid point, and what's sort of going through my mind is I think we all need to look at ourselves and think about, are we happy with how we're living our life? And what you're saying, actually, to me, what it sounds like is, you've reached a point where you're like, actually, this is doing me no good. It's actually not benefiting me. It's not quality. It's not allowing me to be authentic, and that's really coming through. And I guess, we have a saying, don't we, that we often talk about, and that is if you surround yourself with the right people, then don't be surprised if you start feeling better about yourself. And I guess the problem with social media is you end up surrounding yourself with a lot of strangers, and you end up surrounding yourself with a lot of people that you don't know, and you end up surrounding yourself with people that you're comparing yourself with because of their posts. You end up surrounding yourself with being in discussions that you wouldn't normally be in normal life. You end up looking at something that takes you down a rabbit hole, which if you weren't on there, you wouldn't go down that rabbit hole. You end up looking at something and absolutely believing it to the point where you'd actually talk to someone and they're going, you didn't believe that, did you? That's bullshit, right? And you're like, oh, okay, I actually believed that because you've been brainwashed. So I totally get it. And actually, I think for me, it's not just about social media. I think it's bigger than that.
Yeah.
I think it's actually saying, I want to use my time to do things that I feel are going to add value to my life. And right now, I don't think social media is adding value to my life. So I'm going to reverse out of it. And I'm actually going to fill that time with something else. And I think that at the nuts and the base of it, when you really drill down, I think is an amazing thing to sort of think about and to get to that point. Because I do think that, one of my biggest things I talk to people about all the time is that the biggest gift you can give to anyone is your time. It's bigger than anything else. Your time is absolutely precious and valuable. So now think about, in a day, your phone actually tells you now how many minutes and hours you're spending on your phone. And just think to yourself, if I didn't spend that time on my phone, what could I spend my time doing? Funny enough, I was only having this conversation this morning with a client around the time thing, and that you can't cheat quality of service. You need to give it the time. You can't cheat building relationships. You need to give it time. You can't cheat being a parent. You have to give it time. If you don't give your child the time, don't be surprised if they go off the rails because you haven't given them the time to nurture them, to support them, to listen to them, to talk to them. And then he also raised another point that went through. Now I'm going into a big rant now. And that is that, you always do this to me. And that is that time is so precious. But what we tend to do because of social media, when someone's communicating to us, we're already thinking about our reply, that we haven't actually listened to what they're saying. And that's social media, because we've got so used to replying straight away to something that we've seen or we've articulated or we've taken in through our eyes or through our being. So I actually think, for me, what you're saying is not just social media related. I think this is something about life and about the fact that you want to give yourself back that time. And I'll just share this with you. So in 2015, when I found out that I was going to be a father again, I was very conscious of my health. And because I was going to have a young child, and I knew that my child is now 7 years old and I'm 53, that I was going to be an older parent. I thought about, what do I need to do to prepare myself for this, what's going to happen, and this child being born into my life. Anyway, cut a long story short, what I actually worked out was to get to put some more time into me, I was going to have to make a massive, big decision in my life. I was going to have to find an hour and a half from somewhere so I could actually focus on me, so I was mentally and physically ready for this amazing new challenge. You'll be pleased to know that, 8 years on, I've still kept up that training regime, but the only way I was able to do it was by waking up an hour and a half earlier. So most people that know me know that I will go to the gym in the morning. That's my time for going into the gym. But I had to make a sacrifice to make that happen. What we're actually saying is, if you ditch something in your life that gives you more time, or you make an adjustment in your life that gives you more time to do the things that you want to do or spend time with family, I think that's at the bottom of what you're saying, Oliver. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's fair, because it's one of the things is giving myself enough time and so forth. But it's also one of the reasons that we choose this gig is because we like helping people. And I'm not sure, even though I personally, I think my social media is great, and the information out there is really, really valuable for people. It's really, doing it for so many years now. The guys who help me with all this stuff have done an amazing job. So it's really good quality out there. But ultimately, I'm trying to help people as much as I possibly can, and I want to help them in the best way possible. And I feel it's such a light touch that whilst it's great because there's potential to reach far more people, I would rather have some more intensive engagements and relationships with people who can then influence more people to follow this path. And they don't have to work with me, but they can come and find information. Because I'm not going to take my platforms down. The information will remain. There'll be a website still. A podcast will continue and all these sorts of things. So it's not like they can't still access it. But I would like them to be sort of almost guided there, as it were, rather than just trying to put things out there. And one thing that really caught my mind, actually, is we all get trolled a little bit, and to be honest, it really doesn't stress me out. But one time I got trolled by someone a few weeks ago, where they accused me of gaslighting, and initially I was like, I'm almost offended. I've never been accused of it. But then I listened back to the video, and even though they were trying to hurt me, I was like, do you know what? He's not right, but he's not wrong, actually. Because I was presenting a scenario that if you weren't already in that, you could have been led down to thinking, well, maybe that's me. And I was like, well, that's not what I mean to do. And the only reason that's happened is because I'm trying really hard, and I hate that word trying, but I'm trying really hard to awaken something in people. And maybe I'm trying too hard. So this possibly was the trigger, because normally I just dismiss stuff like that. But it really sat with me, not because of him, because I knew he was just trying to be mean, and that's fine. I'm used to it. I've been on Twitter long enough. It's really not a problem. But actually, I thought, you know what? That's challenged my thinking. Because how many other times could I possibly have slipped into the trap of a bit of gaslighting? Never intentional, but often people who gaslight don't know they're doing it. And I suddenly thought, well, hang on a minute. And this is because I've been doing it for so long. Do I need to keep reinventing the wheel? No. The ethos of what I do and how I work is out there, and it will be perfected over time continuously. I'm a much better coach now than I was when I started 7 years ago and so forth. But ultimately, I don't need to keep making up more content. And I can remember Chris Reeves saying to me a few times, you don't need any more video, you've got so much stuff. And maybe I just slipped into the trap of feeling I need to be fresh, I need to keep up, I need to do this. And maybe the quality had almost, I don't know if dumbed down, and it is only one person's opinion, but it's not really their opinion that's relevant. It's what it made me think, because I was challenging my own thinking actually, do you know what? After a half an hour of being a bit miffed about it, I was almost agreeing with the troll, thinking, do you know what? Actually, yeah, I can see why. Maybe he wasn't trolling me. Maybe he genuinely was challenging me, just in a pretty crappy way. And that was interesting as well, that maybe I have moved so far away from my authentic self, which we've touched on in previous podcasts, and I love the description of it, that was almost like a trigger. And then I've had 2 weeks away being my authentic self with my family, being natural, doing things the way I have been, and it felt really good. And I don't feel like I want to go back to being less authentic. I'm not going to say not authentic, but less authentic, because ultimately I don't want to have to record videos and upload them for the world to see. That isn't what gets me excited. I'm willing to do it because it seemed like a necessary way of increasing your reach. But it's not how I want to be. What I would like to be is building effective relationships with people like yourself and other people. And I guess that's the thing as well. Meeting you and a couple of other people in my circle that have recently entered into that circle has really changed the way I think about it. So I think you've absolutely hit the nail on the head that maybe social media is the trigger for me, but might be is a different trigger for other people. So I absolutely do agree, and I'm also conscious of trying to keep these episodes to 20 minutes, and I've just gone over that point. So I feel that's a great time for me to stop and let you have a minute or so wrap up and leave it there, because then people can come back and have a chat, can't they?
Yeah, brilliant, Oliver. I mean, what I would say this podcast is really all about is whatever you need to do to make yourself feel comfortable and give yourself back the time, then do that. And in this case, the trigger was the social media for you. Social media. For someone else, it might be something totally different. But I do think whatever you need to do to manage that time, to own that time, to be in the present, something else that I've been speaking about just lately is being in the present. I think whatever you need to do to be in the present, then do it. And if that means turning off your social media, then go do it.
Yeah, cool. Love that. Okay, I hope everybody's enjoyed that episode. As always, if anything's troubled you or you want a challenge, reach out to us. Not so easy with me now, so I won't be on so many social media platforms, but I'm still on LinkedIn. And you can obviously email me via the website. And Stephen, you can easily find him on various platforms as well. So do reach out. We always want to hear some feedback and have some things challenged. But other than that, I will leave it there. Thank you very much, Stephen. And we look forward to speaking to you all at the next episode.